Hi there, I am MC Mura, sometimes referred to as Makmura. I've been playing fighting games since 2008 with the release of Soul Calibur 4, and I've been playing Street Fighter since 2009 with the home release of Street Fighter 4 to home consoles. And I've been playing Street Fighter seriously ever since that time, and if there's one thing that have been consistent with Street Fighter since 2009, it is that Cammy have always been a very strong character, more often than not a top tier one. But believe it or not, Cammy was not always a top tier in the Street Fighter games. Actually, quite the opposite with the release of Street Fighter 2. That's when Cammy first came out. And long story short, Cammy was a melee based character in a game where projectiles were uber strong. She always had like quick movement, good damage, good normals, but back then projectiles were a real menace. Cammy had difficulty dealing chip damage to her opponents. Safety in general wasn't that great. Spin knuckle and hooligan weren't that good back then as well. So she really struggled to get in, and you have to remember that during these days, landing like a jumping into combo, that wasn't easy. A head stun wasn't really that long. So this character was often referred to as probably the weakest character in the game at that time.
Cammy, you think Cammy's like ridiculous in Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 4, but Cammy's actually the worst character in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
But Cammy would make her comeback with a vengeance in Street Fighter 4. Actually, funny story, as a producer of Street Fighter 4, Mr. Ono, he was once asked, what are your favorite Street Fighter characters? And he said, Cammy and or Mika. I wonder what they got in common. I can't think of anything. But when Cammy made her comeback during Street Fighter 4, times had truly changed, and as Snake once said, war has changed. And they really did, because now in Street Fighter, whenever you land a jumping attack on the opponent, there is way more hit stun, allowing you to get a follow-up combo. This gave Cammy a much better chance against projectile users, but the game also had a mechanic called the focus attack. It allows you to absorb an attack and then do one of your own. The thing is, you could also like forward dash or back dash cancel this. You're still taking damage, but you can recover the health over time. And Street Fighter 4 had also another mechanic, the ultra combo. You're building your ultra gauge by taking damage. So the idea is you would throw a projectile at Cammy, she would focus attack, back dash, meaning that she took the hit, her ultra combo meter went up, but she didn't really take the hit. Now here's the thing, Cammy had access to her Ultra 1, which was one of the coolest Ultras in the game, but this thing was also an anti-fireball move, and she was able to get like anti-fireball hits from a very long distance. This meant that if you're spamming projectiles at Cammy, now you are giving her free Ultra meter, where she can then punish you with an Ultra 1, dealing massive damage. This, along with the changes to jumps, meant that Cammy now have much stronger time, much easier against projectile users. But Capcom wasn't content with that. They also gave Cammy, and I'm not sure this is the first time she had this, access to a new move, the dive kick. And dive kicks are just insanely strong in the context of 2D fighting games. See, in a 2D fighting game, you have two planes where you can move, the X-axis and the Y-axis. Every character can move back and forth in the X1 horizontally, change their attacks, change their positioning. Everyone is free. The issue with the Y-axis is that it is predictable. Characters more often than not have a fixed jump arc, and in Street Fighter games, at least 4 through 6, you can't block while jumping, meaning that you are taking a risk going for the jumping. Obviously, the reward can be massive. The thing with Cammy, the thing with dive kicks is dive kick allow Cammy to change her jump trajectory and change the timing and have a ton of variance to it, making it a lot harder to try to anti-air Cammy, especially if your character doesn't have a flash kick or an DP anti-air. And remember, Cammy is still a tremendously strong character on the ground. So now she have a really powerful ground approach, a really powerful aerial approach, and a strong anti-fireball game. To put the cherry on top, the dive kick in Street Fighter 4 was extremely strong, had a gigantic hitbox, made it very powerful to use in setups and knockdown setups. Like you could cross up with it, it would lead to a lot of combos because like I said, jumping attacks had a ton of frame advantage. But there is an extra added sauce that made Cammy particularly powerful in Street Fighter 4. The game had a very famous option select called crouch taking. Pretty much you are holding down back and mashing grab. If the opponents try to grab you, you take the grab. If they were attacking, you block, and if they didn't do anything, you get a crouching light kick. To beat this, you had to pretty much delay your button and frame trap your opponent. Cammy had access to the dive kick, and back then there were pretty much like non-height restriction, meaning that Cammy could do an instant dive kick. This would allow her to call out your crouching light kick, crouch tick, get a combo punish on you, and it had like a ton of frame advantage, so she could do it whenever she wants. And if you happen to block, she was still plus and you still had to guess. Everything I just mentioned meant that Cammy was a very stable character because even on defense, she still had an amazing DP, FADC that could lead to Ultra as well. Cammy was very powerful, she was very meta throughout Street Fighter 4. Hi there and welcome to my world, welcome to my mansion where me and my friends the EX-Men gather. We're still looking for Wolverine, we haven't found him yet. And apparently in my universe, Psylocke and Rogue are identical twins as well. It's crazy. If you've been liking the video but you haven't subscribed yet, and please consider subscribing, it would help the channel a lot, and maybe we would find Wolverine one day. I think that will be pretty cool. Excuse the silliness and enjoy the rest of your video. When Street Fighter 5 came around, Capcom made sure to learn from their mistakes. Cammy will now a higher height restrictions on her dive kick. No more insta-air dive kicks. And you know what? The dive kick can't hit cross-up whatsoever now. So you don't have to deal with the unblockables of Street Fighter 4. So does this mean that Cammy now got weaker? Absolutely not, because remember what I said earlier, Cammy always was a very strong character on the ground, and this is where she really got to shine with Street Fighter 5. Her ground game, her normals were absolutely tremendous in that game, had fantastic walk speed, she would always able to combo pretty much whatever into like the heavy spiral arrow, which would do a lot of corner carry and give her a really powerful Oki, had insane plus frame, that Cammy standing light kick, she was so sticky to you. Cammy would stick to you the way the symbiote would stick to Spider-Man. She didn't want to leave. She would like standing infinite. She would like standing light kick infinite you and then woke up standing medium, woke up she was so sticky once she got close to you, and once you got cornered, her throw loop were one of the absolute best. There is a reason the term take the throw became popular, and that was particularly because of Cammy, mainly during the season 3, the Street Fighter 5 arcade edition. So where like the resident sleeper and thing got popular. She was so powerful back then. So dive kicks got weaker, right? Well, in general they did, but Capcom also made sure to give Cammy one of the absolute dumbest dive kicks known to mankind, and that was her V-Trigger 1 dive kick. This was a joke of a dive kick, to be honest, because this thing, even if it is like an absolute worst spacing ever, it was +4 minimum, and it was like +10 or like 15 on block if she happened to get it at a good height, and if she happened to land the hit, it could be up to +17 on hit dive kicks that left you grounded. You can go make a cup of coffee, come back and finish your combos. That was actually absurd. It was crazy. The X dive kick would launch you, so she doesn't get like grounded combos out of that anymore, but she still would get like a pretty decent follow-up. Everything I just mentioned meant that Cammy was able to play the ground game fantastically. She also had a really high stun damage output. It was later nerfed, but for the longest time she had amazing stun. She also had like a hit confirmable crouching medium kick, although it was a little bit harder than some of the other characters. In conclusion, she was still very good. She was still very strong and was an absolute menace once she closed the distance and started to press you. And now with Street Fighter 6, you still know the history, right? Cammy is still an absolutely fantastic character. It's so hard for Cammy to not be good in a modern like Street Fighter game. She is designed to be very easy to play. She is designed to have good movement, designed to have good normals, designed to have good defense, and designed to have a dive kick. How can Cammy not be good? She might not be like the very best, but she was always gonna be good in modern Street Fighter games, and she absolutely still is. Have a particularly decent drive rush, have a crouching medium kick that is pretty amazing, have insane corner carry on her combos. Now she doesn't have the low HP tax anymore, so she's even like better than before defensively. She had one of the best anti-projectile options in a game where anti-projectile tools generally are a lot weaker. Her level 3 is still probably the best checkmate move in this game, where once you have it, even Guile just can't throw projectiles at her anymore. Cammy is very strong and she is the latest EVO winner for Street Fighter 6. She got nerfed a little bit now, but I still think overall she had remained a very powerful character in the context of this game. And I do think forever Cammy will always be good, because like I said, her design, just like Akuma, the design is there. The design will make sure that the character will remain strong. Like unless they change Street Fighter so that jump-ins don't deal like massive damage, or like there's now air blocking, or they change the dive kick so that she no longer gets caught. The dive kicks are even better in Street Fighter 6 because of punish counters. It made the dive kicks even better in footsies. She will always be good, and I personally like Cammy, so I don't mind it. But there is someone I know that is like a dedicated Cammy hater, Shiko. Yeah, the hate is real. Anyways, that is pretty much it for today's video. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment. It really does help the channel a lot. Obviously, Street Fighter 6 is a little bit stale at the moment, so we are trying to mix things up here and there. I will be bringing back the long character guides, working on a 31 at the moment, but it's taking some time. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and stay safe.